Hello, this is Gena Zitlow and Heather Hargrave at she's at Pretend Cajun and I'm at Gena Zitlow Healing. We are here. It is the month of October. We had told you guys that this week we're actually recording the video because Heather's going on a fun little haunted house trip to Memphis, and we're going to hear all about that next week. But today is all about ghosts. I'm sorry, that was last week. So sorry. We're talking about curses and spells. And Heather knows quite a bit about this. So I am going to turn it over to Heather.
Oh my goodness. This stuff is it's so fun to talk about, but some of it is it's a little bit scary sometimes when you people start talking about curses and kind of the dark side of things. It's and I think a lot of people think that's all that it is when you're someone that does a spell or you do rituals or things like that, that they automatically think it's something dark, but that's not necessarily true. Um, of course, there's curses, which is this essentially when you're wishing ill on someone, or and that can be done a lot of ways. You can it can be financially, it could be in a relationship. You can actually wish sickness on them or to them and to their whole family. So I've seen a lot of things out there that people do. I don't do any of that because I don't like the dark side of things, but things can be cursed. People can even curse objects and give them to someone again, kind of wishing ill somehow for that person, some kind of negative impact on that person. Um, so it can be pretty dark stuff, and it's usually associated with a spell. And spells can be a lot of different things too, though. I mean, because spells can just be something that you do along with moon magic, and it can be really just calling something in. You're trying to manifest something or something like that. So, and it can actually see, this is my thing with spells too. A spell can actually just be a ritual for some people.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily consider it a spell. It's just a ritual that they do. Again, moon magic is a big one. People have a lot of rituals that they do around full moons or new moons, or um, we have an eclipse coming, so that one will have be pretty powerful. So people that do rituals or spell work around that, there's going to be a lot of power, a lot of energy coming with those moons. But there's so many spells you can do, though. There's so many rituals. There's, like I said, you can call something in. You can, you can bind someone if someone is, maybe I've seen a lot of people do that with exes that are kind of won't stay
What
out
is
of
this?
their
What does that
lives.
mean? So I'm going to ask you some questions. So
Ah,
first, let's back up a minute. When we were talking about curses, how would someone actually go about cursing someone? Because I want people to know the intentional curses, but also the unintentional curses, because there's a lot of people that are cursing people and they don't really understand what that is or that they're even doing it. So
yeah.
how would you curse someone? I have an idea, I'll share, but I want you to go first. Like,
Um, I feel like, and I mean, we were talking about this before, how, the things that you say and the intentions um, that you have every day can have an effect in the universe, because a lot of what we're talking about is energy, and it's kind of manipulation of energy. And so when people say magic, I mean, there's that's a word for it, and that's what a lot of people may consider it. But I think a lot of people actually can manipulate things and can sort of make things happen and not even realize it, because your energy is important and your energy can do things and make things happen. So if you're having a lot of negative energy towards someone, the things that you say, I wish this would happen. I wish this would happen to this person, could feasibly
be a
you
curse.
could feasibly affect it. Yeah. It could essentially be a curse, because if you're truly cursing someone, and there would be probably a ritual involved. You would there would be certain, you would decide what you want to say based on what you want to happen. It doesn't have to rhyme and all those things. You just basically state your intention very clearly because that's what you do with a spell. You
Mhm.
state your intention very clearly, and you may do something like light a candle. You may use herbs. You may use crystals that sort of strengthen that energy, I guess is the best way to say it. Um, but yeah, you could probably curse someone just with your thoughts without even realizing that that's what you're doing.
And so, okay, and little segue here. So, because we both do theta healing and I'm a theta healing practitioner, we sometimes remove curses and spells from people. So, this is absolutely a real thing. And I have had clients come to me that have curses. Now, you can get a curse from a family member, a friend, an ancestor, and you can also carry in a curse from a past life or from an ancestral line, which we have found out and we've learned and we've worked on with our clients. So, my experience, if someone gets in a fight with someone, like a boyfriend girlfriend, or they fight and someone says, I wish you would lose your job, or I hope you lose your job, or I hope you get super sick and die with cancer. Well, those are sent with energy and intention in the moment, even though the person may not think they're doing harm other than venting, but that could actually be sent as a curse. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, and I think that a lot of times when you're trying to do a spell, you're trying to call something in, or you're trying to, you're hoping for good luck or things like that. The the emotion that you put behind it, I find can make it stronger. So a lot of times when you're caught up in the moment of anger, especially, anger is a very powerful emotion, and there's a lot of energy that goes with that. So yeah, like you said, it's almost an intentional at times that you're just saying something in the heat of the moment. But the more emotion that you put behind any intention is going to put more energy behind it,
Mhm.
you know, and
Right.
possibly make
Well,
it
and
happen
and
or
there's
help it along.
right. And there's ritualistic curses, right? Like we had this tangent before we got on this recording about voodoo. And there's ritualistic stuff that goes on in voodoo with voodoo dolls and all this other stuff where it's a ritual process and that includes a curse or a spell, right? And stay tuned,
Yeah.
guys, because we just got all excited about this. So we are going to have a podcast probably and a live specific about voodoo, but you can do it unintentionally or intentionally set a curse. And I guess that's um my point. And so what would be symptoms of a curse? Do you have any idea?
Um, I mean, it really could be anything, I guess. I mean, it could be, maybe financially you lose money if that's what the person wished. Mental health issues, I
Mhm.
think, because I mean, I've had this conversation on my podcast before that I think there's mental health issues that are tied to all kind of spiritual things. So, we can have that conversation another day. But yeah, I think you can kind of mess with someone mentally, um, cause a relationship to fall apart, especially sickness, I think is a
And
big one.
this would probably be something that happens over and over and over again, right? Like they fix the situation and they think it's fine, but then something else happens and they have another financial situation or another financial situation. So if it's never ending, would that be more of a clue that it could potentially be a curse?
To me, there's a couple things that could indicate if things continually fall apart like that, then maybe it's an outside force, maybe it's someone that has cursed you, or maybe it's an alignment thing that there's something that you can control that you've done that, okay, I'm not in alignment with what I should be doing, and that's kind of the universe telling you, hey, I need you to move on from this, and then
Mhm.
your finances will get fixed. So sometimes I think there's a lot of things at play there because it could be a curse, it could be ancestral, it could be
Past life.
conditioning, it could be so many things that Yeah, it's hard to know what it could be, but yes, it could be, absolutely that someone has.
And on our live, like when we post this in the comments on Facebook, please, please, please share if you've experienced someone that's had a curse, or you feel like you've had a curse and it was broken, or you feel like you have a curse now. We would love to help you if that's the case, but also be able to share information so that other people can learn about this as well. So we would love to
Yeah.
hear your comments.
Yeah, because there seems to just be layers, and it depends on the person and their energy and their intentions, and, like you said, I don't do the dark stuff really, so I kind of know by association, that's not really right, but just for other people that I know that do those things.
Right.
Um,
And I will
uh,
note too, probably my experience anyway, curses are never anything really positive. Like a curse has a negative connotation, but just the essence of how a curse is given is usually low vibration, like anger, fear, resentment, like someone's really mad and yelling and screaming. That's all low vibration energy. And so I would assume curses are always going to be a negative and not a good thing because they're lower vibration.
yeah, that would be my thought as well. And, I was thinking about this earlier. There were instances of curses in the Bible, weren't there? That different people got, they would put a curse on their land or
Yeah.
a curse on their family, their future family, and all those things. I mean, there were several
Right.
actually throughout biblical
And
times.
people have had curses back in the Bible, leprosy and all these other diseases that were actual curses.
Yeah.
And then, they were removed or healed, which is a whole other topic, you guys. But that, when you talk about spirituality and stuff, for sure, you can remove a curse. We've both done it in theta healing in our practices. So it's there. We just want people to be aware of it and know
Yeah.
that there's help and there's resolutions if you feel like that's a part of your world, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, again, a lot of people when they think about, magic or rituals and things like that, they automatically think of negative things. But I know myself and most of my friends that I hang out with, any kind of rituals or anything that we do, they're actually always really positive. It's usually some kind of manifesting, trying to call something in as far maybe it's financially or with a job or with a relationship and things like that, it's basically all part of our purpose and our alignment, I guess, getting ourselves where we need to be so that we're doing the things that we need to do. It's our healing something. Um and then or maybe, good luck and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's actually very rare indeed that any of us are doing anything that's even remotely dark or negative. So and I think a lot of people don't realize that just like in church, I mean, communion is a ritual, um, gathering the offering is a ritual, so it's sometimes spells are actually very similar to
Mhm.
a ritual. They could be interchangeable there, and they're actually for positive things.
Right.
So,
Well, I
um,
have something that just popped up, so I want to share it if that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So it's about curses, and I just thought that maybe people might want to know, how do they avoid getting curses, or because curses are real, you guys. This isn't from the 1700s and 1800s and witch days. The curses are still going on. And we do have to mention, because we talk about energy and we do healing work and energy work, we also have to talk about spirituality a little bit, because it's kind of all connected. And as far as curses go, you know satanic worship, underground stuff. If you get too far into anything that's dark arts or super metaphysical, and what else am I missing? Or you hang around well, okay, so let's be real about this. If you watch a ton of scary movies or satanic ritual movies or things like that, there's curses and stuff in the movies, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so if you're looking to avoid that, it's not that you can't, because I love scary movies. But I also work in really positive energy, so scary movies for me are just pure entertainment, but it is a lower vibration um frequency. So people do have to be careful, just with the energy that flows through those type of things. And so if you're not super strong in your spirituality or super strong in your boundaries and your energy fields, then those would be ways that you could protect yourself from curses. Would not watching movies like that, or going to underground clubs where there's any sort of dark rituals, or um hanging out with people that talk about dark rituals, or anything like that. Am I missing anything?
No, I don't think so. Because,
Yes.
yeah, just if you let yourself get into that mindset and let that sort of
Mhm.
become what you're thinking about, it can definitely bring your vibration down really,
Right.
really
And
easily,
and
actually.
that's when curses are really, they can take hold and stick, I guess is the easiest way to say it, when your vibration's low. So it really is really about paying attention to your energy all the time. And you'll hear us talk about that all the time. I am like the energy queen, because energy is attached to everything, moment to moment. And if we can protect it, then you can avoid some of these things such as curses.
Well,
Um,
and look at how much, when you're in a low vibration, I mean, we've talked about this, how, you know, you helped me with some stuff with after I had the virus and everything, and I was actually in a really low vibration because
right,
I was feeling so bad, and I was just so down about so many things, and that's a really you're really susceptible, and it's almost like it was making me sicker
right,
because as my vibration dropped, I felt worse, and, so I had to work at bringing all that up at the same time so that
right.
I could heal a lot of different things at once to
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even like in that made me think of shows and things like that. When your vibration's low is when you're gonna be more susceptible to any type of curse, even if you're not aware of it at the time. Like there's subliminal messaging in TV, in cult groups, in dark magic groups. Um, it's not always blatant in your face. Sometimes it's subliminal or very unconscious, or it's subtle. So if your energy fields are strong and your immunity is strong and you're feeling healthy and centered and grounded, that's not going to affect you. But if you have lower vibration, or your immune system's down or something like that, is really when you're going to be affected more from these type things.
agreed.
Mhm.
That's when people like us are handy to come
Yes.
help remove all the
For sure.
things that have decided to attach to you and
Right. Right. I know.
suck your energy away.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
So
yeah,
yeah, so we could, I mean, that's just we hope this helps. It's a little gist about um curses and how you can be affected by them. But then also, intention, this is important to note, I guess. As far as intentions go, you can remove a curse too. You can release a curse once you become aware of it. I guess that's the biggest thing. Like when we work with clients, sometimes they subconsciously or unconsciously have a curse. Once we allow them to discuss and be open and see that they might have a curse, then they can choose to have it released. And that's also intention. That's a positive side of removing a curse. It's not stuck with you, it's not with you forever. Yes, you can release a curse. And it's very easy, actually, once you become aware of it.
yeah. And I think I know you and I both, I think, I do things daily to try and not just keep my vibration up, but to actually protect myself that to hopefully kind of keep some of that negativity
Right.
um from
Right.
being able to get through to me
Right.
and attach itself.
Yep. I
So
agree. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about spells.
Yeah. And spells, like I said, they're actually very similar, and it's about setting an intention of something that you want to happen, basically. I think I've done mostly ones where I'm calling in something, um, and that's, maybe going into a new moon and you wanna, um, decide the goals that you have for that moon cycle, so maybe you write those down and you do that with some, with a candle and with particular crystals or herbs and things like that. So you're stating that intention and wanting that to happen. You can do the same thing at a full moon. It's kind of a ritual, but releasing
Mm.
things that no longer serve. And so often you can write all that out. These are all the things I'm releasing for this moon cycle. And, literally then go burn it under the light of the moon. And that symbolic of releasing and, that ash going away. But, I have a friend that recently, she did a freezing spell on she had an ex that just basically wouldn't leave her alone. So
Mm.
she wrote his name on a jar or on a piece of paper, put it in a jar, stated the intention that she wanted him to not be in her life anymore and seal the jar and put it in her freezer. So froze him. It's essentially freezing them out of your life. And it's kind of the same thing if you want to banish someone or bind
So what
someone. It's kind of the
happened?
same intention.
Did he
He's
quit? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. He hasn't really been messing with her anymore. So
Oh,
yeah. Because sometimes people just don't take the hint. So
yeah.
um yeah.
And so
So
stuff
it's
like that would be important, like sovereignty and boundaries for you if you wanted to um state something and have it happen for someone.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be more of so you could use it for setting for clean boundaries for you, setting an intention and a spell. And when you speak it, is there a certain way you have to speak a spell? What I
I
mean, is there spell books that really like is there spell books? I know there is.
there are people that you can I've seen people sell spells on Etsy, which I
Oh
just
wow.
find fascinating, but, I I
Do you
think the
recommend people
idea.
don't do that? Do you
Huh?
recommend people don't buy spells on Etsy?
I wouldn't, because I really think that it's personal and it's more about you need to be very clear about what it is that you want. I find being really vague is can be a bad thing sometimes,
Yes.
um, because the universe needs to know what it is that you want.
Mhm.
So I think if you can be very specific, um, and generally, if you don't know what crystals to use, what herbs to use, I mean, you can look that up. Or if you have crystals in your house, what are you drawn to? What do you look at when you look at all your crystals and you go, I want that one? Then that's probably the one you should use. You know, um, but
Mhm.
I think being very precise about what you say and being very intentional about what you say and putting that energy and that emotion behind it is what gives it power because you're what gives it power.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
so
so,
so where does the power of the spell come from? Just your word? Your spoken
y-
word.
yeah, your intention, your
So
energy.
so then it could be the positive side or the negative side,
Yeah. Now,
depending on
there are people that believe you can call on different deities or different gods, goddesses,
that's where
and
I was going. That's where I was kind of digging.
yeah, because you have some that, they have things they're known for, certain powers that they are known to have, and so I know a lot of people that they work with specific goddesses in particular, um,
So you
and
tap or ask for
they will call on them,
okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
um, and ask them for help in making that happen. I generally don't again, that's something I don't really do that. I have friends that do that though, that do that a lot, and it's just a matter of, sort of it's almost like asking an expert for their expertise. They're very good at this thing, so you say, "Okay, can you help me make this happen?" And
Right.
again, it's usually positive things.
Well,
Um,
and and she keeps saying positive because we work in the positive, very high vibration realm. However, we do need to discuss it because it's important. There's
yeah,
light witches, There's dark, do they call them dark witches or black witches?
Yeah, some of them do, yeah.
And so they use different powers, or like she said, different deities or different some witches use the elements. So they're more
Mhm.
shamanic in nature. They use east, west, north, south, all that type stuff, and the wind and the air. And I guess it really is the word. I saw this meme somewhere and I wish I could remember what it said. Something about spelling. So words, you learn words by spelling, and spelling is spells. They're connected. So anytime there's a word or something that's stated, it could be used as a spell, right?
Yeah, and I think it's very important for people to realize that your words, your thoughts, your intentions can be very powerful.
Mhm.
Um, because that is at the end of the day what it is. I
Mhm.
mean, the herbs, I mean, I know a lot of witches that they work with herbs a lot, because they're healers and they're using, herbs, I guess, medicinally, tinctures and things like that. Um, and of course, like you said, you have the ones that draw in nature. Um, but yeah, there's, anything that has intention behind it can have power. So it's just a matter of how you state that intention and
Mhm.
exactly what your intention is and what you're wanting to happen.
Right,
And I find using things, some of the crystals and the herbs or, moon energy and things like that, I find it just sort of, it adds to the power. It adds to the power of that energy, um, because there's only so much that you have. So if you
right,
can, kind of help it, enhance it, you know,
right.
it, makes what you're doing more powerful. So, mm.
So is there a way for you to give us an example of like a good spell and a not so good spell? And I don't
Oh,
know if you want to do that, if you want to say a negative one out there, but it's more of like, so I don't work in the spell world or the curse world other than clearing them from people. But I mean, from what I've learned from you so far, I would think that a positive spell would be like, I I wish or call in financial success, but I would say for the highest good of all. So that feels like high vibration for me, so that it navigates its way through all the energy to be good for everyone instead of taking something away from someone.
Yeah, and you'll find people do that, because you don't want it to be negative for someone else for you to have,
What?
positive gain.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think people do that where I mean, I know we state it as for the greatest and highest good, I guess is the
Right,
main way that we say it. But I think others do that as well. I mean, you want it to be, um without harm to any others or harm to the earth or things like that, that you kind of can state, without harm kind of thing. Um, but yeah, generally, I think you have to really maybe meditate if you want, but really focus in on, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do? If you're calling in good luck, because you're trying to, maybe you're trying to find a job, or you're in school and it's about testing and things like that, you can sort of, call in that luck to help you have the right mindset to do your test,
right.
or, to help you have the right words when you go for a job interview.
Mhm.
um, and I think people just go about it different ways now. I would do it differently and I would do it through theta, but before it might have been, maybe it would have been a spell, or maybe it would have just been more of a prayerful intention, um, because I think all of those are the same thing in a lot of ways, because it has to do with the intention and then the way in which you go about it. Some people do a prayer, some people light a candle, some people do a spell, you know. So I think they all are actually very similar things,
Right.
especially when they're light, when they're light things. Um,
So there are people that do spells and invoke deities or gods or God or angels or spirits or whatever. But then there's also people that do spells that probably would invoke demons or Satan or any of that. Would you agree? Just so that people know.
yes, are darker deities. Because you have a lot of people that do this kind of work that they actually don't believe in Satan in the way that someone that was raised in a Christian environment would. Um,
So you've got
they
dark people that are doing dark spells. It could be satanic, but they don't think it's satanic because they don't have a religious background.
Yeah,
That's a
they don't believe in Satan in the same way we do, but they do believe that they're a lot of them do believe in dark, deities and dark entities, and they do some
hmm,
of them do work with them. Um, but there are a lot of people that believe that Satan and demonic things are, a social construct, basically, a
mm,
religious construct. I don't
mm,
know how I feel about that. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but, that's their take on it.
right.
Um, but
So
yeah,
then,
there's definitely some dark stuff out there that
well, we have spiritual warfare going on. So all of this does um exist. I mean, we've experienced it. Like and we're really good about talking about what we've experienced. So when we do our lives, it's not like we're just coming out here talking about random things we don't know about. Like I deal with low vibration spirits. I've dealt with demons and followers, and I've dealt with high vibration stuff. So it's all coming from experience, and you could say the same thing too. So
yeah.
and that's what our lives are about, are really sharing our experience so that people can become a little bit more aware of positive and negative and good and bad, with curses, in this case curses and spells, and kind of dig on their own and do a little bit more research if something resonates, and maybe
Yes.
take a look at, oh, this, I that friend is a little dark, or this is going on and maybe I should stay away from that. So that's kind of our intent with these videos, is to really
Yeah.
help people along and make them more aware. And
Yeah.
um I just thought of this too. I want to say it before I forget, because it'll come and it'll go. So symbolism is in spells a lot.
Yeah.
Like, is there symbolism in the word itself, or the word connotates a symbol of something, right? Like a
Um,
cross, you could have an upside down cross, a normal cross, and there's symbolism and meaning in how the cross is used. And then when you attach words to it, I don't know what I'm trying to say, other than I know words have, there's symbolism in words as well as pictures, right? So we have to be wary of that.
yeah, and I think people, yes, and I think people will use, symbols or objects, um, in some kind of spell work or some kind of intention work or ritual work, you
Yeah.
know, just like you walk in a church and there's a cross on the wall, I have a cross right here beside me. I mean, I know some people that have they'll have little statues of little deities that they like to work with. They'll have a little statue of them, you know, in their area where they do their work.
Yeah. Well, I was looking because
S-
I have like a little angel. It's an opalite angel. Like we have
yeah,
symbols and,
yeah.
you know,
Like I said, I have a cross that sits beside me.
yeah.
Um, it sits with where a lot of my crystals are actually, but so, yeah, I think and it depends on that's why it's so hard sometimes to talk about some of this because it truly does depend on the person and what their path is and what they've chosen to do, and I guess I'll say this 1,000 times, their intention. What is it that they want to do? And I know I agree with going out and, do some research if there's something that you're interested in. I will tell you though, to me, my opinion is be careful with the dark stuff.
Mhm,
Um, because like I said, your words and your intentions carry power, and until you really know what that is and what that means, I would go with caution
mhm.
into some of those
Well,
things.
yeah, I second that too. And there's, everyone talks about truthers and conspiracy theorists and all this other stuff. So you do have to be careful just with what you're reading. And you really have to look at, does this resonate? Does it feel true for me? Does this feel light? Or does it feel negative or heavy? If it feels negative or heavy, then it's definitely not a rabbit hole you should be going down. That's your internal guidance system working for you, sharing with you that no, that's lower vibration energy.
Yeah, and I've had instances, and I mean, these are friends, these are people that we all share and do things together and whatnot. And I've had times where there's something one of them wanted to do that I was like, you know what? That's not my that's not my bag. I'm
Mhm.
gonna I'm gonna deny I'm gonna, just step back from this one because it just wasn't my thing and it just didn't feel right. And
Right.
I mean, to each his own. I have no issues with, I mean, if this is what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. And it wasn't anything dark. Okay, don't it wasn't that kind of thing. They're not that wasn't that. But the deity work is where I struggle a little bit, because it just doesn't really feel right to me. So
Mhm.
I don't really it's just not something I do. I have a lot
Right.
of friends that do.
Like, are you talking deities like, I don't even know because they don't resonate with me either.
Um,
Like Isis, Ganesha, like all that type stuff. You want,
yeah,
or,
goddess mainly goddesses. I
okay,
can't even think of anybody's name right now, but, yeah, and like I said, I just don't it's the Christian in me that is not I'm not overly comfortable with that.
right,
And I have some friends that are Christian that they see it very differently,
mhm,
that this is not the same. This is simply, again, almost like asking an expert for their help in the
right,
thing that they're an expert at. And they don't see an issue with it. But for me, it just doesn't, at least at this point in my life, it just doesn't quite feel right. So I I don't partake in that. But that's my choice. Um, that it just doesn't feel right to me. So it's not something that I do. And I think it's important to make those choices that, like you said, if it doesn't feel right, there's probably a reason. And it may be conditioning, it may be something that you need to work through. And that's when you have to, I believe, take a step back and do some inner work and do some work on yourself and your belief systems and why it's there and why you believe it.
right. I would agree with that, especially for people in the spiritual world, Christians, anybody that's religious, because we're so conditioned with rules inside those religions. I grew up Lutheran, and then I switched to Catholicism because I was engaged. My first love, we were engaged, and their whole family was Catholic, and it was required that we had to get married in the Catholic Church. So I did all that. But the problem was a lot of that didn't resonate with me, for me, inside my soul. So then I had, issues there that I had to work through. But then, now I'm Christian, but inside even being a Christian, a lot of people that are other Christians have a real issue with me because I have the gift of speaking with spirit
Yeah.
and some other things. And these are things that are directly in the Bible, which we will have a live on this.
Yeah.
I'm
A whole
sure
different
this is going
conversation.
down a rabbit hole. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's but really with the foundational piece of all of this when we talk about curses and spells is really, is it light, is it high vibration, does it bring light to the world, does it feel good, does it make you feel better, or again, is it low vibration, heavy, icky, dark, like just that should always be your guide. And we'll probably talk about that a lot when we talk about other topics, because um I mean, what else can I say is you just need to see if it resonates with you. But if it resonates with you, it should feel light, it should feel good. And we have so many tools and curses and spells, like spells are intentions. I am statements can be positive spells. I am affirmation
Yeah.
statements, mantras can be spells. So there's a lot of good in spells. And I think for me anyway, like that's why I wanted to start doing lives. I just want people to, I want to help educate them to open up their mind a little bit so they can see that there's more than the box that we've been taught, and that it could be something a little bit different. And what resonates with you might not resonate with someone else, but what's your path and what feels good for you, right?
Right, right. And I think people get hung up on the word spell,
Mhm.
and that if they really, because I did this when I was doing some research on it, for a podcast I did before that, when I really started looking at it, how many things were based in religion and how many things that were probably categorized as spell. That's why I kept saying the word ritual, because they really are rituals. They're not
Mhm.
spell is just a word for some of them and a word that some people use, they're very interchangeable. Often they're very interchangeable. Um,
One thing we
yeah.
didn't talk about, I just thought about before we wrap up, because I don't even know how long we've been talking.
Uh,
Um, how do you put a spell on someone?
Again, it's the intention. It's you have to there's a lot of visualization or there may be writing it. You know, journaling is actually really powerful. Writing things can be really powerful. Just like I said, when you
Mhm.
freeze that person out of your life, you're writing their name down with that intention of this is what you want to happen. Put it in the jar, put it in the freezer. So a lot of it can be visualization of that person. I've heard of and I don't think I've ever used it, but it's a sweetening spell. So maybe if you have someone that's maybe not so kind, you might could ask for them to just, be a little sweeter. Well, use a little honey in that spell,
Wow.
in a jar, set that intention,
Hmm.
and
So would you say spells require an action of some sort?
I feel like it does.
Okay.
I do. But that action may be nothing more than writing down what it is that you wanna call in, or writing down what you wanna release,
Mm,
or, writing down what you would like your relationship with this person to be, you
right.
know? It may be nothing more than that. Um, setting writing it or saying what it is that you want as you light a candle, and that allows that light to come, and then, sometimes the idea, especially if you're releasing something, is that you then blow that candle out. But a lot of people tell you if you ever meet a witch, they'll tell you don't blow a candle out because you're blowing away whatever you set the
Oh,
intention on.
wow.
So
These are
you
all
you
the
either
little things we need to know about spells and
yeah. So
witchy
you either
stuff.
let it burn all the way down
Yeah.
or and just burn out on its own, or you snuff it out if you can't wait for it to burn out. But often they'll say that if you set some sort of intention with a candle and then you blow it, that you're blowing away your intention. But then sometimes that's what you want to do. So it
Mhm.
depends on your
On
on
what
your
you're
purpose behind your spell.
so
So
can like okay, just because we talked about ghosts and spirits last week. So would a spell be is there a spell that you could say, because I've seen it on Hocus Pocus and some of these other like witchy stuff. It's Halloween. We have to talk about it this month. But like, they put salt down around something and then they say like a spell or some sort of something to keep the ghosts and spirits away. Is
There are, um there are people that believe that salt, is a deterrent to, spirits and ghosts and whatnot, and that they can offer protection. I know some people that don't. They're like, "That's not true." They don't believe that, but then I know others that, yes, they will put a ring of salt around their house, that they are trying to keep spirits out of. So, oh, yeah, there's so much more about spirits and cleansing your home, and yeah, we can talk about that
yes.
probably another day as well. But again, that's a little bit of a ritual, of,
On our list, we will have a live about rituals, so stay tuned for that too. With
making a
details
list of
like
all the
how do you
things.
create a ritual, why rituals are important in your life and all that good stuff. Um, okay, so are we at a good stopping point?
I think so.
Okay,
I think we've covered a lot.
okay.
And I
So
think a lot of it is if there's something that you wanna do, like I said, figure out the intention and kind of how you wanna go about it, and maybe reach out to someone if you're very unsure about how to start. But the biggest key that I would say is to be very particular about your intention, and that know that your words and your energy has power.
sorry. Okay, awesome.
Mhm.
Well, if you have comments about curses or spells, or you need help because you think you have a curse or a spell, please comment in the post of where this will be, and we can reach out or we can discuss it further. So you can reach me on Facebook at Gena Zitlow Healing, and that's Gena with an E, Gena Zitlow Healing, or Heather at Pretend Cajun on Facebook. I think we're both on IG the same, right? Instagram
Yep.
too. Yeah. So Gena Zitlow Healing on Instagram and Pretend Cajun on Instagram for Heather. And then
Yep.
next week, we get to hear all about the haunted house and we get to talk about haunted houses and Heather's experience going to Memphis. And so I'm super excited about next week, and that will be live next week. So again, it's Thursday Thoughts, Thursdays at 5:30 Pacific time and 7:30 Central time.
Yes.
Yep. Did I forget
Yes.
anything?
I don't think so. That sounds
Okay.
like everything.
All right. Well, have a spooky day. Have a spooky week. All about and Halloween in and of itself, like we could go down that avenue with spells and curses too, because there's mere what's the Day of the Dead? What, how do they say it in Spanish?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it's a big
I can't say
celebration.
it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ritual involved in that, just like there is Halloween for us. Like rituals, trick or treat. Is that a spell? Like it could be, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then we
and
get
it's
into
All Hallows Eve. I mean,
yes.
so that's a Catholic thing, you know,
Yeah.
so,
And they
yeah.
talk about even celebrating Halloween is lower vibration because it's attached to, you know, death and all these different other cultures. But anyway, so just be aware, be spooky, stay spooky, be aware of your
Yeah.
words and your energy. And okay, we will see you soon. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, whoops. Hold on, wrong one. Wrong button.